2.5 million years ago, long before cities, language, or civilization, the first humans walked the earth. They were not like us, not yet. These were Homo habilis, the handyman, the earliest known members of our human family. Their world was wild, raw, and unforgiving, yet it was the birthplace of everything humanity would one day become. Our story begins in East Africa, near what we now call the Great Rift Valley. Here, shifting continents and changing climates sculpted a land both beautiful and dangerous. Rain was scarce, predators were everywhere. Saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, and wild dogs hunted the same grounds. For early humans, every sunrise meant a new battle for survival. According to archaeologists, life during this period was unpredictable. Droughts could last for years, and food sources constantly changed. Survival depended on movement, following the herds, finding water, and using whatever nature provided. Fossil evidence shows small groups of early humans traveling together across the plains, carrying sticks and stones, always searching for food and shelter. They were gatherers and scavengers, constantly on the move, their lives shaped by the rhythm of nature. Then came one of humanity's greatest leaps forward, the creation of the first stone tools. With a sharp edge, a rock became more than just a rock. It became a weapon, a tool, a lifeline. These early stone flakes allowed humans to cut meat, break bones for marrow, and carve wood. This moment marked the dawn of technology. The ability to shape and use tools changed everything. It opened new sources of food and new ways to survive. From this point onward, human evolution would be guided not only by nature, but also by innovation. Life for early humans was not solitary. They lived in small family bands, bound by cooperation and care. Even without complex language, they communicated through gestures, sounds, and shared emotion. Anthropologists believe that social behavior began to take shape during this period, as fossil records show injured individuals who survived long enough to heal, evidence that others must have helped them. These bonds were essential. Alone, a human was vulnerable. Together, they could watch for predators, share food, and teach survival skills. This was the beginning of community, the foundation of human society. Perhaps the most transformative moment in prehistory was the discovery of fire. It is difficult to say when it first happened, but its mastery changed the course of humanity forever. Early humans may have first encountered fire from natural causes, lightning strikes or volcanic eruptions, and over time learned to control it. Fire provided warmth on cold nights, protection from predators, and a central place for gathering. It extended the day into the night, opened the possibility of cooking food, and gave comfort in darkness. For the first time, the night no longer belonged to the beasts. It belonged to humankind. Food was always uncertain. Early humans gathered roots, berries, fruits, and nuts. But meat was the most valuable prize, and the hardest to obtain. At first, they scavenged the remains left by larger predators, using their stone tools to access what others left behind. Over time, they learned to hunt, developing strategies and teamwork. Hunting required intelligence, memory, and cooperation, and each successful hunt strengthened social bonds. Every meal was a shared victory, an affirmation of unity and survival. As humans evolved, so did their minds. By 100,000 years ago, their descendants were creating art, painting, carving, and imagining beyond mere survival. These early forms of expression revealed something extraordinary. A growing sense of self-awareness and imagination. Art and symbolism showed that humans were beginning to think not just about the present, but about memory, identity, and meaning. From the first cave markings and handprints came storytelling. And from stories, culture. The human journey was no longer just about staying alive, it was about understanding life itself. The world around them was constantly changing. Ice ages came and went. Different species of humans appeared and disappeared, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, and finally, Homo sapiens. Each generation faced new challenges, but adapted to survive. Archaeological evidence shows how early humans spread from Africa to Asia and Europe, surviving every type of climate the Earth could offer. They carried with them their tools, their knowledge of fire, and their growing intelligence. A legacy passed through time. Every tool, every word, Every invention we know today began with those first humans. Their courage to adapt, their instinct to create, and their unity and struggle form the foundation of their story begins in East Africa, in what scientists call the Great Rift Valley, a region of dramatic landscapes, towering volcanoes, and endless plains. Here, the climate was changing constantly. Seasons of rain were followed by long years of drought. The earth was alive with the movement of herds, antelope, zebras, elephants, and ancient species now long extinct. But it was also a land of predators, saber-toothed cats, hyenas the size of lions, and packs of wild dogs. For early humans, every sunrise meant a new fight for survival. Archaeological research tells us that these early humans lived in small groups or family bands. They moved constantly, following water sources and the migration of animals. They had no permanent homes, no villages, no walls for protection. Their shelters were temporary: caves, tree cover, or simple branches and leaves built against rocks. Their existence was fragile, but they were resilient. Cooperation was their greatest strength. Together they could watch for danger, gather food, and care for their young. Survival depended on resourcefulness. One of the most important milestones in human history came during this time: the invention of stone tools. It may seem small, a rock chipped against another, but that first sharp edge changed everything. For the first time, humans could cut meat, skin animals, and crack bones to reach the nutrient-rich marrow inside. Stone flakes also allowed them to process plants and wood. This marked the beginning of human technology, the very first spark of innovation. From that moment, humanity's path diverged from all other creatures. Our ancestors were no longer limited to what nature gave them. They could reshape nature to suit their needs. These early tools represent the foundation of every technological advancement that followed, from spears and pottery to computers and spacecraft. In those rough stone edges lies the birth of human creativity. But tools alone could not ensure survival. Life on the African plains was unforgiving. Food was scarce, and danger was everywhere. Early humans scavenged animal carcasses left by predators. They used their tools to scrape off the remaining meat or crack bones to extract marrow. This new ability gave them access to energy-rich food that fueled their growing brains. Over thousands of generations, their diet, rich in protein and fat, helped shape the evolution of human intelligence. As their brains grew larger, so did their capacity to think, plan, and communicate. Though they lacked complex language, they likely used gestures, sounds, and facial expressions to share information. Over time, these primitive forms of communication built stronger cooperation within groups. Caring for each other became a matter of survival. Fossil evidence even shows healed injuries, proving that early humans tended to one another, an early sign of empathy and community. Around 1 million years later came another monumental breakthrough: the control of fire. At first, humans encountered fire naturally, from lightning strikes, wildfires, or volcanic activity. Gradually, they learned to keep and carry embers, protecting fire as a precious tool. Fire became their most powerful ally. It offered warmth against the cold, light in the darkness, and protection from predators. It transformed the way they lived, cooked, and socialized. Cooking food made it easier to chew and digest, unlocking more energy from the same resources. This helped fuel the rapid growth of the human brain. Fire also became the center of community life. As night fell, families gathered around the flames, sharing food, warmth, and perhaps the earliest forms of storytelling. Around the fire, bonds grew stronger. It became a symbol of life, safety, and continuity. The first flicker of culture. As thousands of years passed, early humans began to develop more advanced tools. They shaped hand axes, spears, and scrapers. Each generation improved upon the last, passing knowledge through imitation and practice. This transfer of knowledge, though not through words, represented the dawn of education. The ability to learn from others became another survival advantage. Hunting began to replace scavenging. With sharpened tools and coordinated teamwork, small groups could target animals too large for a single hunter. They learned to plan, to anticipate the movement of prey, and to communicate silently through gestures. This cooperation required intelligence, memory, and social awareness. Every successful hunt was not only a victory over hunger, but a triumph of collective effort. Proof that humans were becoming thinkers and strategists. These early humans also began to migrate. Climate shifts and competition for food pushed them beyond Africa. Over thousands of generations, they moved into Asia and Europe, adapting to colder climates and new environments. Each migration demanded creativity. New clothing, new shelters, new hunting strategies. It was a slow but unstoppable expansion that would eventually populate the entire planet. As human species evolved, from Homo habilis to Homo erectus and later to Homo sapiens, their tools, skills, and societies grew increasingly complex. By around 100,000 years ago, humans were capable of imagination and symbolic thought. They began to decorate objects, carve shapes, and paint on cave walls. These were not mere decorations. They were expressions of identity, memory, and belief. Through art, humans demonstrated an awareness of the self and the world beyond. Art marked the beginning of culture, from simple handprints to intricate hunting scenes. These ancient works reveal minds that could dream. They tell us that early humans were not just surviving. They were beginning to ask questions about life, death, and purpose. They were exploring what it meant to exist. Meanwhile, the Earth itself was transforming. Ice ages advanced and retreated. Vast glaciers carved mountains and valleys. Animals evolved, migrated, and vanished. Yet humanity endured. Fossil and genetic evidence shows that our ancestors adapted to nearly every environment on Earth, from tropical forests to frozen tundras. This adaptability is one of the reasons why humans eventually became the dominant species on the planet. Throughout these ages, the spirit of curiosity drove human progress. Each discovery, a sharper tool, a safer shelter, a controlled flame, was a step forward in understanding the world. Curiosity is what made humans look at the stars, wonder about the seasons, and explore beyond the horizon. It was the same drive that would one day lead to farming, language, writing, and civilization. The legacy of those first humans lives within us. Every time we invent, build, or imagine, we echo their first moments of discovery. Their courage to adapt and their instinct to cooperate gave birth to everything we are today. The simple stone held by Homo habilis eventually became the foundation of all human innovation. From steel and engines to microchips and satellites, the story of primitive humans is not just a chapter of the past, it is the origin of us all. It reminds us that humanity's greatest strength has never been size, speed, or power, but intelligence, creativity, and unity. The same instincts that helped our ancestors survive against predators now drive us to explore space and create technology. 2.5 million years ago, our ancestors stood on the edge of an unknown world. They had no language, no cities, and no certainty. Yet within them burned the same spark that defines humanity today, the will to learn, to adapt, and to survive. From their struggle came everything: fire, art, knowledge, and hope. When we look back to those first humans walking under the African sun, we are not seeing strangers. We are seeing ourselves, raw, determined, and filled with the same endless curiosity. From stone to steel, from caves to cities, from whispers to symphonies, the journey of humankind began there. On the open plains, under a sky that still watches us today. The life of primitive humans was difficult, dangerous, and uncertain. Yet from those early beginnings came the greatest story in history, the story of us. These early people, called Homo habilis, the handyman, lived in East Africa's Great Rift Valley, a region of grasslands, forests, and shifting volcanoes. The climate was harsh. Periods of heavy rain were followed by long droughts. Giant cats and hyenas ruled the plains, and survival depended on constant movement. Early humans lived in small family bands, protecting one another, sharing food, and teaching their young how to find safety. Even without real language, they used gestures, sounds, and facial expressions to communicate. Cooperation was their greatest weapon. Alone they were weak, but together they endured. Their most important achievement was the creation of the first stone tools. By striking one rock against another, they shaped sharp edges that could cut meat or break bones for marrow. That single act marked the birth of technology. the moment humans began to control nature instead of being controlled by it. Tools allowed them to scavenge carcasses, open new food sources, and gain the energy needed for larger brains. Each new generation learned from the last, passing knowledge forward. Over many centuries, another discovery changed everything: fire. At first, flames came from lightning or volcanoes. Gradually, humans learned to keep the embers alive and to use fire for warmth, protection, and cooking. Around the fire, families gathered at night, sharing safety and connection. The glow of firelight extended the day and may have sparked the first stories and social bonds. With fire and tools, early humans moved from scavengers to hunters. They began to plan and work together, using hand signals and strategy to trap or chase animals. Success demanded intelligence and teamwork. Every hunt deepened cooperation and strengthened the sense of community. As millennia passed, these skills led our ancestors out of Africa. They adapted to new climates and landscapes: deserts, forests, even frozen lands. Evolution produced new human species such as Homo erectus, carrying with them fire, tools, and growing intelligence. Eventually, humans began to think symbolically. They carved shapes, decorated objects, and left handprints on cave walls. These early expressions of art reveal minds capable of imagination and self-awareness. For the first time, humans were not just surviving the world, they were beginning to understand it. The story of primitive humans is the story of persistence. Every tool chipped from stone, every fire kept alive, every lesson passed to the next generation built the foundation of what we are today. Their courage to explore, to adapt, and to cooperate created the path that led to language, farming, and technology. 2.5 million years ago, our ancestors stood beneath the African sun with nothing but their hands, their minds, and their will to survive. From those humble beginnings came everything: art, science, culture, and hope. Their struggle lit the first spark of humanity, and that spark still burns in us.